They invented the automatic transmission. They put touchscreens in cars before smartphones existed. They sold 1 million vehicles a year. And then, they vanished. This is the story of how being too far ahead can kill you just as fast as falling behind. Some brands fade away because they failed. Oldsmobile died because it succeeded at things the world wasn't ready for yet. This was America's 8th oldest car maker, a company that built over 35 million vehicles and once ranked as the 3rd best-selling brand in the entire country. By the early 1980s, they were moving 1 million units annually. Then in 2004, the factory doors closed forever. For me, Oldsmobile isn't just corporate history. It's woven into my family's memory, a ghost that taught me the cruelest lesson in business. You can do everything right and still lose everything. Today, we're dissecting exactly how that happens. Picture this, 1901. A 22-year-old named Ransom E. Olds makes a decision most people thought was insane. He abandons steam power entirely and bets everything on gasoline engines. The result was the curved Oldsmobile, named after its distinctive curved front panel. No doors, no windshield, no gauges, just a wooden bench, a steering wheel, a single-cylinder engine pushing 4.5 horsepower, and a dream that this contraption could hit 20 miles per hour. They sold 635 units that first year. In a market still dominated by electric and steam vehicles, that number was shocking. Oldsmobile had just become America's first large-scale gasoline car manufacturer. Then disaster struck. A fire ripped through their Detroit factory, reducing nearly every prototype to ash. Only one car survived, the curved dash. Most people would have seen that as the end. Ransom Olds saw it as clarity. He poured every resource into mass-producing that single model. And in the process, he invented something the world had never seen, the fixed assembly line. Workers stayed in place, parts became standardized, cars rolled out in logical sequence. History gave Henry Ford the credit years later for the moving assembly line. But Olds built the foundation Ford would stand on. By 1904, internal conflicts pushed Ransom out of his own company. He left and founded REO Motorcar Company, literally using his own initials. REO would become legendary for the REO Speed Wagon truck, a name that eventually inspired one of America's most famous rock bands. Here's the twist. Today, Volvo owns the REO brand rights. Full Circle doesn't even begin to describe it. Meanwhile, in 1905, a song called In My Merry Oldsmobile became a cultural phenomenon. It played in bars, theaters, and homes coast to coast. Oldsmobile didn't pay for a single advertisement. They'd accidentally created the first viral marketing campaign in automotive history. The name became synonymous with romance, progress, and middle-class pride. In 1908, Oldsmobile joined General Motors, a young but ruthlessly ambitious corporation. Within GM's ecosystem, every brand had a role. Oldsmobile became the aspirational step-up, more refined than Chevrolet, more engineering-focused, but not quite touching Cadillac's luxury throne. In 1910, they released the limited Touring Series 23, a statement car for America's upper class. Long body, tall roof, generous legroom. Under the hood sat an inline-six producing 60 horsepower, exceptional for the era, wrapped in real leather and polished wood. The price? $4,600. Staggering. But here's what mattered. This car came factory-equipped with a speedometer, an odometer, and a full windshield. These weren't standard features then. Most drivers judged speed by instinct. Windshields were crude afterthoughts. Oldsmobile was already thinking about the driving experience as something organized, controlled, purposeful. During the 1920s, Oldsmobile tried to expand upward with a subsidiary called Viking. V8 engines, luxury interiors, premium pricing. On paper, it made sense. In reality, it was a disaster. Buyers couldn't figure out who Viking was. Too expensive to be an Oldsmobile, too unknown to compete with Cadillac. When the Great Depression hit in 1929, brands stuck in the middle died first. Viking sold roughly 7,000 units before being shut down. The lesson was brutal. Identity confusion is a death sentence. In 1937, Oldsmobile introduced the automatic safety transmission, a 4-speed semi-automatic gearbox. You still selected the range, but you no longer wrestled with a clutch pedal and gear lever constantly. Driving suddenly became less exhausting, safer, accessible to people intimidated by mechanical complexity. Then came 1940, the year Oldsmobile forced the entire industry to redefine what driving meant. Hydromatic, the world's first mass-produced fully automatic transmission. No clutch pedal, no manual shifting. Just put it in drive and go. For $57, ordinary Americans could touch the future. Hydromatic proved so durable that GM installed it in Cadillacs, Pontiacs, and Bics. Then they licensed it outside the GM family. When World War II erupted, it was adapted for tanks and military vehicles. If you watch Oldsmobile's 1940s ads closely, notice one detail. The driver's right hand never leaves the steering wheel to hunt for a gear lever. That hand stays put because the future had arrived. By 1949, while America was still processing peacetime, Oldsmobile dropped the Rocket V8 engine, a machine that redefined American power. It wasn't the first V8, but it was the first high-performance overhead valve V8 produced at scale. Compared to traditional flathead engines, the overhead valve design allowed more efficient combustion, higher RPMs, and more horsepower from the same displacement. The result? A family sedan that could outrun expensive European sports cars. The Rocket 88, released that same year, became instant legend. It looked like a respectable family car on the outside. Underneath was pure rebellion. Lightweight body, compact proportions, clean lines built for speed, not spectacle. The 303 cubic inch Rocket V8 delivered performance that left flathead rivals in the dust, with acceleration that stunned the nation. The 1950s turned cars into symbols of the future. Taillights shaped like jet engines, expansive grilles, body creases inspired by aircraft wings. America was obsessed with rockets, the sky, outer space. In 1958, Oldsmobile released the Dynamic 88, Super 88, and 98 models. Critics immediately mocked them as chrome mobiles. Oversized grilles, excessive metal trim, cluttered lines. They looked like the future had been overused. Meanwhile, Chrysler had just launched the Forward Look, sleek, modern, aerodynamic. Overnight, Oldsmobile's designs looked like antiques. The public turned away. 1958 became one of the decade's greatest design disasters. But Oldsmobile learned fast. By 1959 to 1960, they returned with refined, balanced rocket-inspired designs. Rocket motifs on front fenders, tail fins shaped like exhaust nozzles suggesting motion even when parked. They also introduced power windows, 2-speed electric wipers, factory air conditioning, and power-adjustable front seats, luxuries far beyond mainstream expectations. In 1966, Oldsmobile released the Toronado, the first modern American car with front-wheel drive. In a market obsessed with rear-wheel drive and long drive shafts, the Toronado felt extraterrestrial. No drive shaft meant a flatter floor, more interior space, and superior traction on slippery roads. This wasn't a reckless experiment. The Toronado was engineered to handle massive V8 torque, something many European engineers still hesitated to attempt. Recognition came from across the Atlantic. The Toronado finished third at the European Car of the Year Awards, a rare American car honored in Europe. It proved American engineering could think differently and compete at a global sophistication level. Parallel to that engineering path came the muscle car golden age. The Oldsmobile 442 started as a discrete option package and became an icon. The numbers stood for 4-barrel carburetor, 4-speed transmission, dual exhaust. A code only true enthusiasts understood. Its 400 cubic inch engine produced around 345 horsepower. By 1970, displacement grew to 455 cubic inches, turning the 442 into a stoplight nightmare. What made it special? Oldsmobile didn't build flashy muscle cars. The 442 could take the family to work during the day, then transform into a beast the moment you floored the accelerator. Power paired with responsibility. That was the Oldsmobile philosophy. That spirit reached its zenith with the Cutlass Supreme. Throughout the 1970s and early 1980s, it became the best-selling car in America, even outselling every other GM model for 3 consecutive years. But it was precisely at this peak that cracks began forming. Decisions that seemed logical in boardrooms quietly eroded everything that had lifted Oldsmobile to the top. Under pressure from GM's cost structures and scale demands, Oldsmobile increasingly shared platforms, body shells, and components with BIC and Chevrolet. Cars that once had distinct personalities were mockingly labeled cookie-cutter cars, stamped from the same mold. To loyal customers, the feeling was unmistakable. Oldsmobile was no longer Oldsmobile. When supply shortages hit, GM quietly installed Chevrolet engines into Oldsmobile vehicles without clearly informing customers. Technically, they were still good engines. Spiritually, it was betrayal. People bought Oldsmobile for a distinct engineering philosophy, not a Chevy in disguise. The result: lawsuits, media scrutiny, shattered trust. The hardest thing to build, destroyed in just a few years. In an effort to stay ahead of the fuel crisis, GM developed diesel engines based on old gasoline platforms, lacking the durability diesel operation required. The result: loud, rough-running engines plagued by constant breakdowns. Oldsmobile suffered. But wise, American trust in diesel cars was damaged for decades. For many families, it was the first and last time they'd ever consider diesel. What do you think? Were these 3 mistakes truly what prevented Oldsmobile from ever recovering? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Ironically, right when its identity was weakest, Oldsmobile moved ahead of its time once more. In the 1990s, the Toronado Trofeo came equipped with a color touchscreen, vehicle function controls, and an integrated telephone. While the rest of the market was still turning knobs and pressing buttons, Oldsmobile was touching the future with its fingertips. Simultaneously, Oldsmobile tried shedding its old image with new names: Aurora, Alero, Intrigue, Bravada. Names that sounded younger, free of the word old. Technically, these cars weren't bad. The Aurora was considered one of the most refined American sedans of its era. Cab-forward design, unibody structure, smooth aerodynamic lines, almost no traditional chrome. It appeared lower, wider, more European than any previous Oldsmobile. Under the hood, a 4.0 L-DOC V8 derived from the North Star platform, producing around 250 horsepower. Smooth yet authoritative, paired with a refined automatic transmission. The interior earned critical praise: driver-oriented dashboard, soft-touch materials, supportive leather seats, excellent sound insulation. But the problem was never the product. It was the question the market could no longer answer: who was Oldsmobile? In December 2000, General Motors made the final decision to discontinue Oldsmobile. Not because of bankruptcy, because there was no longer a strategic reason for it to exist within a corporation crowded with overlapping brands. Oldsmobile became a name with no clear position between Chevrolet, BIC, and Cadillac. Quality was no longer exceptional. Identity was no longer sharp. And the name itself, despite its rich history, became a burden in a market obsessed with youth. In April 2004, the final Oldsmobile rolled off the assembly line, officially closing more than a century of development and history. When you look around today, what do you see? Multi-gear automatic transmissions, head-up displays, GPS navigation, the philosophy of bringing advanced technology to the mass market. Oldsmobile did all of this first. They did it when the market wasn't ready, when consumers hadn't learned to understand it, when the company itself no longer had the strength to protect its identity against a massive corporate machine. Oldsmobile is the paradox of the American automotive industry, a brand that helped give birth to the future but didn't live long enough to enjoy it. They didn't die from lack of creativity. They died from being too creative too early, and from losing the very story that once made people believe in them in the first place. Thank you for spending your time with me, looking back at a brand I truly love. Hit that like button as a small nod to the past. Subscribe so we can keep meeting here, continuing to open dusty reels of film from Detroit's golden era. And don't hesitate to leave a comment. Which Oldsmobile did you drive? Or which memory of it still stays with you today? See you next time.